Ladies and gentlemen, it is your host with the biggest nose, Jay-Z Courtside, coming at you today on Wednesday, March 4th. I hope everybody's having a phenomenal day. I hope your basketball team won last night, because mine didn't. So I hope you guys got to experience some joy last night. Welcome back, everybody. I'm very happy to see y'all today on this wonderful Wednesday morning. Today, I've got a fun episode planned for y'all. I mentioned it yesterday if you guys tuned in. I said we might not be breaking down tonight's games, meaning last night's games, because I wanted to do an episode where we, again, rank the playoff contenders. So earlier in the season, we just talked about each team and we said their, mid-season review, and we talked about every single team in the NBA, and that was like over a 2.5-hour episode. So today, now that we're 3/4 away into the season and we sort of know what the playoff picture is looking like, we all have an idea, like the play-in teams versus the playoff teams. We sort of all know who is really involved and who's not, right? So in today's episode, we are going to be looking at the top 12 teams in the NBA. I'm talking the 6 in the East Coast, the 6 in the West Coast. So maybe we'll add a little slight in there for Hornets fans out there, because they are the best performing play-in team out of any other playing team in the NBA. Like, you look at the Warriors, you look at the Hawks, and you look at these other teams that, quite frankly, they don't need to be talked about in this segment. But I feel like the Hornets are the one standalone play-in team that we can discuss. Now, I'm sure you guys are all probably wondering, Jay-Z, how are you going to rank these teams? Okay. So what interested me most about doing this episode was, I don't know if you guys read blogs, sports blogs, or anything like that. I dabble. And the Bounce recently did a blog post ranking their contenders. So I thought, you know what? Let me rank my contenders. And instead of just ranking them 1 to 10, I saw a very fun blog post from Zach Harper. He does some great articles if you guys do like reading sports articles. And he did a separate ranking of teams with a rank scale called DDT. DDT. That's don't doubt them. And that's the scale we're going to be using. DDT. And we are going to be ranking these teams with sirens. Okay? 1 siren, meaning they have very, very low odds at making the finals. And 5 sirens for the highest of odds, and everything points to them making the finals. Okay? So that's the scale that we're going to be using today. I hope that makes sense for everybody. It's quite simple. And yeah, we're going to be starting with the team that I believe has the lowest odds at making the finals. And then we're going to be moving our way up to my number 1 team that I believe will be making the finals. All right. So, TikTok, YouTube, if you guys, want to show some support, be sure to drop a like, follow, subscribe. Same with you guys in the YouTube. Be sure to do that. It helps more than y'all could possibly understand. Podcast listeners, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. And Twitch chat, you guys have the easiest job in the entire world. All y'all got to do is sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, grab an energy drink, and enjoy the show. Now, first up, I don't have a label for them because I wasn't planning on talking too much about them, but the Charlotte Hornets, they deserve to get at least an honorable mention for this. If I were to go from my 13 teams, I will have the Hornets at my 13th team. I believe that they are the worst team to talk about in this list. They are on a solid, I believe, 5-game win streak. And, they've stepped it up. They are now 500. And I believe this is the furthest into a season the Hornets have been 500 since the Kemba Walker era, if I were to guess. Now, they're 29th in steals, they're 20th in blocks, they're 24th in field goals made, they're 23rd in field goals attempted, because they just jack up so many threes. They are 4th in three-pointers attempted, 2nd in three-pointers made, and 3rd in three-point percentage. They're a fiery offensive team, and come playoff time, they're going to make whatever series it is difficult for the opposing team. Whether it's the Pistons, whether it's the Cavs, the Knicks, the Celtics, they're not going to go down easy. And that's why I think they're an honorable mention from everybody here. And you can look at the rest of the play-in teams, like the Hawks. You can't really see them. The Heat, come on now. The Magic, once again, out of all of those teams, I'd say the Hornets are going to make whatever first-round series they lose in extremely entertaining, whether it's a 4-game sweep or a 5-game sweep. I think they're going to make any of them entertaining, but since none of these players have any playoff experience whatsoever, and their leader doesn't really play playoff basketball, we've never seen it, I'm questioning how far they can truly go being led by a rookie in Konkanips, B Mill, who's, super inconsistent this year, but shows you what he could be in the future. And then LaMelo Ball, who I just can't take serious whatsoever. I feel like that's the only play-in team we're going to talk for this entire episode. So I do believe the Hornets' ceiling is the first round, and their floor is also the first round. I don't see them losing in the play-in. I'm very excited to watch the Hornets in the playoffs, whether it's against my team or any other team. They're going to make any series fun. They are, plain and simple. And that crowd over there, man, in the Spectrum Arena, that was a blast. All right, there's my honorable mention. Let's start off with our very first team, meaning the team that I genuinely don't see doing anything come playoff time, and that's the Los Angeles Lakers. Out of all of the top 12 teams in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers right now, I believe, are the worst of those 12 teams. Now, since we're ranking them with sirens, I'd say the Los Angeles Lakers have one siren. They have one siren. That's it. I don't see them making the finals. I don't see really any chance of them contending into the playoffs. They've won 3 straight, and now Lakers fans think that they're back, but in reality, they beat the Golden State Warriors, or sorry, whoever those players were that they rolled out onto the court. That wasn't the Warriors. The Sacramento Kings, who are the worst team in the NBA, and then the Pelicans, who you thought were the worst team in the NBA, but the Kings are. So they versed 3 of virtually of the worst teams in the NBA, and they'll have a wake-up call tomorrow when they verse the Denver Nuggets. So the Los Angeles Lakers overall, let's just talk about it. They're the second worst rebounding team in the NBA. They score the least amount of points than anybody, the least amount of minutes played in the entire NBA, because they typically sit out their guys because they're getting blown out on a lot of their games. They are 20th in assists. They are 18th in steals. They're 23rd in blocks. They are 29th in field goals attempted, but first in field goal percentage. And they are the 6th worst defense rated in the entire NBA. Now, the teams around them in those rankings is what should scare anybody. The teams that they are ahead of, they moved up to 8th. They moved up to 8th because the tank has commenced for a lot of these teams. The teams below them are the Utah Jazz, the Washington Wizards, the Sacramento Kings, the Brooklyn Nets, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Chicago Bulls, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Indiana Pacers. I'm sure you guys noticed the pattern in which those teams that they're ahead of, they're all lottery teams. They're all teams that have given up on the tip-off. So if that's the competition, if that's the standard for this team, they're not going to do anything in the playoffs. I feel like they can make a first round series fun because they have Luka Doncic, because they have 94-year-old LeBron James, because they have Austin Reeves, who has not been playing well as of late. I think whatever first round series they're going to play in, it's going to be entertaining. I just don't see them doing a whole lot. So they're going to make the first round. But as far as me ranking them in as far as contenders go, that's why I'm giving them one siren, because they very well could fall into the play-in like next week. They're really lucky that the Suns got injured. They're really lucky that the Warriors got injured, because if you're telling me Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry are playing for the Warriors, they're lapping the Lakers. If you're telling me Devin Booker and Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green were all healthy, they're lapping the Lakers. I don't see those teams being worse than the Lakers, but because of injuries, unfortunately, they are. Okay? So I'm going to give the Los Angeles Lakers one siren for being a playoff contender. Now, my next team, we're heading out east. I have the Toronto Raptors, who are currently 35-26. The Toronto Raptors have the worst record against 500 teams in the playoff picture. The worst. I believe just the teams ahead of them, they are 2-16 against the teams that are ahead of them in the Eastern Conference, meaning the Pistons, the Knicks, and the Celtics. So that's not good. They are the 5th seed in the East, and they are... let's just go through it. They're 22nd in points scored. They're 24th in rebounding. They're 20th in field goals attempted. They're 25th in three-pointers made. They're 25th in three-pointers attempted, and they're 23rd in three-point percentage. The reason why I have the Toronto Raptors higher than the Los Angeles Lakers is because they play defense. They're top 8 in defense's rating. They play defense. They're 20 teams better at defense than the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's why I have them where they are. As far as net rating goes, the Toronto Raptors are also 12th, so middle of the pack, exactly where they're ranked. The Toronto Raptors are a very interesting team because they have some proven veterans, and they have some proven young guys as well in Scotty Barnes. But you have a contract like Emmanuel Quickly, and Emmanuel Quickly for me is a six-man. He's a six-man scorer. If he can just, if they had a point guard, then they'd be able to do that. I like what RJ Barrett does for this team, but as far as offensively, you guys, if you didn't watch last night, if you didn't watch them against the Pistons, if you didn't watch them against any of the teams ahead of them, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when I say, and I quote, the Toronto Raptors have the worst half-court offense in the entire NBA. And I'm talking worse than the Pistons. I'm talking worse than the Rockets, which is just KD save us in the fourth quarter. The Toronto Raptors, when they look bad, they look bad. I'm talking they look like a lottery team when their half court is not flowing well. And part of the reason being is they don't have a playmaker. They're asking Scotty Barnes, who can pass, to be a facilitator. They're asking Brandon Ingram to be their savior offensively. So if you were to ask me how many sirens the Toronto Raptors get, I'd say they have one. Same as the Los Angeles Lakers. Defense will only get you so far. If you can't score the ball in the playoffs, then how far do you think you're going to go? They have Brandon Ingram, who didn't have a great playoff series last time around. And people like to point fingers and say it's Emmanuel Quickly's fault, and I'd like to strongly disagree. We have a similar situation with Emmanuel Quickly that the Philadelphia 76ers did with Tobias Harris. It's not Tobias Harris's fault that he got paid and gave you Tobias Harris numbers. It's not Emmanuel Quickly's fault that he got paid and he's giving you Emmanuel Quickly numbers. That's just what it is. So as far as Emmanuel Quickly goes, he's doing what he should. He's doing what he promised he would do in his first couple of years in the NBA. But now you are seeing why he got traded. And unfortunately, the Knicks had given him that contract to where they took it. So again, you can't judge a player based off of what they make. You just need to judge a player based off what they do on the court. And then the money situation, you should be judging the franchise for giving them that money. You can't get mad at a player for doing what that player has done his entire career. You can't. So yeah, that's my point. That's my point. I think the Toronto Raptors are the 11th biggest threat at making it to the finals. And I think that's okay. I think this is a great step forward. Here's the thing about this team. Their flaws are very obvious. They need a facilitator and they need a center that can stay on the court. Shout out Pirtle. Shout out Mamu. Mamu's not a center. Small ball is dead. We can't continue running Mamu Kelishvili as a backup center. He's not a center. He's a 3 or 4. He's not a center. Small ball doesn't work anymore in anything other than spurts. He's not a center, and it doesn't work. That's why this team is bad at rebound, and that's why this team has bad interior defense, but good perimeter defense. Yeah, I'll give the Toronto Raptors one siren. I enjoy watching them when they're playing well. When they're not playing well, I immediately turn the TV off because I can't handle it anymore. I can't. It's just, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like real good basketball. Let's move on to my next team. Okay. Let's move on to my 10th ranked contender. And that's the Philadelphia 76ers sitting at 33-28. Now, I think this goes without saying, but this is good. This is good. This is good that I have the 76ers where they're at. I think this is very good. Because just last year, you remember what was last year. Paul George's contract, Joel Embiid not playing, Tyrese Maxey not living up to expectations. You remember last year. So shout out to the Philadelphia 76ers because they have the backcourt of their future. They have Tyrese Maxey. They have VJ Edgecombe, although he got hurt last night. I hope he's okay. And Joel Embiid has been playing more this season. He's been playing more this season, and that's great. And they're playing great when Joel Embiid plays. They also get Paul George back right before the playoffs start, so I think that's great. Maxey, last year, unfortunately, I see some guy in the TikTok is very upset to me saying that last season Maxey was not living up to expectations. He said that's a wild take. I think that's completely valid. Tyrese Maxey was not ready to take the reins last year. They went into the training camp with the idea that Joel Embiid was the number one. And then when he was out and missing, Tyrese Maxey had to just on the fly take initiative and become the number one last year when he wasn't ready to be the number one. He's ready to be the number one. The only issue is Tyrese Maxey can only take you so far by himself. He needs his big man, and there's nothing wrong with saying that. There's nothing wrong at all with saying that. You have Tyrese Maxey last night getting 21 points, 8 rebounds, but I wanted to look at the night before against the Boston Celtics. This is why Tyrese Maxey needs his big man next to him. He had 33 points, and you can look at that and say, man, Tyrese Maxey's the MVP. But then if you just look a little further, he shot 12 for 34 and only had 6 assists. When Tyrese Maxey doesn't have his big man next to him, he looks like Tyrese Maxey of last year. And that's sort of what it's going to happen. And the longer he plays these minutes, in case you guys don't know, and Sixers fans, you guys should listen up. Tyrese Maxey is going to break a record this season. Do you guys know what that is? You guys know what record I'm talking about? I'm not talking about points scored. I'm not talking about steals. I'm not talking about dunks. I'm not talking about assists. I'm not talking about triple doubles or double doubles. I'm not talking about any of that. Tyrese Maxey is going to break a record that hasn't been broken since 2010, when Monte Ellis was averaging the most minutes ever played in an NBA season. And Tyrese Maxey is about to break that. He's about to break Monte Ellis's record for most minutes played on average throughout an NBA season. That is a recipe for disaster. I pray to God Almighty that Tyrese Maxey will be healthy and continue to stay healthy, because the last thing we need is another young player getting injured. Tyrese Maxey has had an unbelievable workload on him this season without his big man next to him. And unfortunately, it might cost them later down the road. He is about to break Monte Ellis' record. Now, they are 28th in assists, and with Joel Embiid there, it will help a lot. 26th in field goal percentage, 21st in three-pointers made, and 20th in three-pointers attempted. And I believe the Philadelphia 76ers are top 5 in... No, they're not. Defensive rating, they are... Yikes, they're 17th, so on the bottom half of the NBA. As far as net rating goes, the Philadelphia 76ers are also bottom half of the NBA at 19. So these numbers are a bit skewed because of them missing their big man, but it's going to be very, very interesting to see what this team comes and then what they look like come playoff time, because at this point, man, I don't like that they're working this guy Tyrese Maxey as hard as they are. VJ Edgecombe's going to develop. I feel like they don't need to go that crazy into this year, because again, the last thing you need is this guy getting hurt, and then you have the injuries and suspensions of Paul George, Joel Embiid. You genuinely do not need to risk his health to go for it this year. You have a young core. You got some fun players in Dominic Barlow, in I was about to say Eric Gordon because I just saw a picture of him on StatMuse. No, not him. Yeah, VJ Edgecombe, Dominic Barlow, Tyrese Maxey. They got a lot of good players, and I really don't want them to see just risk going for it. So I think with that being said, the Philadelphia 76ers, I'll give them 1.5 sirens. I think they have better odds at making the finals than the Lakers would, or that the Toronto Raptors would, because they do have a consistent offense. They do have a good offense. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give them 1.5 sirens. So literally break a siren in half and give them an extra, and I got them above both the Los Angeles Lakers and the Toronto Raptors. All right, ladies and gents, let's move on to number 9. Who is my number 9 contender? The Houston Rockets. Now, I think this goes without saying. I think everybody would agree with me. Now, have they had Fred VanVleet? They'd probably be top 5 right now. Arguably top 4. Had they had Steven Adams? But they don't. And their flaws are very obvious. And I think their flaws are very readable to any team in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets offense, that I said the only half-court offense that is worse than the Houston Rockets is the Toronto Raptors. And that's why I have them 2 spots above the Houston Rockets. They also just lost Jabari Smith Jr., but I think he will be returning soon. My issue with the Houston Rockets honestly go beyond just their record and their roster. It sort of starts with their coaching. The coach, Ime Udoka, prefers to have size. He prefers to have defense. He prefers to just be bigger than the other team. So he doesn't play Reed Shepherd. Now, in case you guys don't know, Reed Shepherd has started 3 out of his last 4 games. And in those 3 out of those 4 games, Reed Shepherd has went on for 19 points in one. Against Miami, he went for 14 in the other. Against Orlando, he came off the bench in that game and he dropped 20. And then Sacramento, I think that was his big game, right? Yeah, 28. So if Ime Udoka can just accept that they need a playmaker, they need a guard, they need somebody to create offense outside of Kevin Durant, I could see them climbing up this list and becoming a stronger contender. But unfortunately, until the day comes, I don't believe Ime Udoka is going to change his mind. I think once Jabari Smith Jr. comes back from health, Reed Shepherd will get sent back to the bench. Now, it's okay to come off the bench. That's fine. That's okay. As long as he's finishing games. The issue is he hasn't been. And when he does finish games, you see it. They win. They came back down from 19 against Orlando on the back of Reed Shepherd. And I'm being told that Reed Shepherd isn't a playmaker, but he's hell of a lot better of a playmaker than anybody else they have on the team. Against the Wizards, he had 19 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. Looks like an able playmaker to me. Against the Miami Heat, he had 14 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Again, leading the team in assists. Reed Shepherd off the bench, 20 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. So at that point, you're grasping for straws here. You're going to need some smaller guy to dribble the ball and to get other shooters open, because Alperen Şengün is not taking the leap that we all expected. He's not looking like baby Jokic. He's shooting horrible splits, and he's not their number one anymore. Kevin Durant is their number one. Well, Kevin Durant is also 37 years old, so this is not sustainable. It's just not. They need shooters around KD. They need shooters around Alperen Şengün. This is simple. So for the Houston Rockets, I think I will give them, again, 1.5 sirens. You can convince me 2 sirens. You can. But I'm going to go with 1.5 sirens because they're 21st in points, 25th in assists, 26th in three-pointers made, and 29th in three-pointers attempted. The team just are, they just don't jump at you. They're not top 5 in any net rating, offensive rating, or defensive rating. And that's sort of where they hang their hat on. And yet they're not that. They're just not. So I have the Houston Rockets with 1.5 sirens. 1.5. Let's move on to my next team. And mind you guys, we're all going in order from my lowest contenders all the way up to my highest contenders. So if you guys are enjoying today's stream, you would enjoy it so much more, and you'd be able to follow along if you come in to the Twitch stream. It's that easy. I got all of my examples on the screen right now. TikTok, you don't see it. Guys, if you want to enjoy this stream to the fullest, where we do this every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream, JZ Uncut. Let's move on. The next team we have up as the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, this might catch some of you guys by surprise. This doesn't catch me by surprise. I did a lot of thinking this morning, and I tried to not let my recency bias cloud my memory, and I didn't. I didn't have my recency bias get in the way. I have the Cleveland Cavaliers as an 8th contender into the NBA, or into the playoffs. Now, my biggest issue with this team is everyone is gassing up James Harden the way they are, okay? Now, I have one bit of good news for Cleveland Cavaliers fans. For those of you saying, oh man, we're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. We're going to be dangerous in the playoffs. I just hate to remind you all that James Harden is on your team. And playoffs and James Harden does not work out. Now, just to rub salt in the wound a little bit and try to pick you up after putting you down. The issue that I see at hand is that what Cavs fans are coping with is that James Harden hasn't had a bad playoffs in Cleveland yet. That's what they're clinging to. That's what I've seen Cleveland Cavaliers fans talk about. Hey, James Harden may be a playoff dropper for 16 years, but he's never had a playoff dropping moment for the Cleveland Cavaliers yet. So if that's their angle, if that's what they're using to be confident about their team come playoff time, that's very worrisome. And something that I've noticed about the Cleveland Cavaliers that a lot of people really aren't talking about is that they have no perimeter defense. If you can get in to the paint easily against Donovan Mitchell, against James Harden, and then you are daring Jared Allen and Evan Mobley to be your interior defenders, you are asking for trouble. They're going to get in foul trouble. And Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, we both know they are not good perimeter defenders. They have no wings. And if you're going to tell me that Dean Wade is their perimeter defender, I'm not buying it. And I see that somebody in my Twitch chat misunderstood what I said. I said James Harden is the playoff dropper. And as we know, Donovan Mitchell is a playoff riser. The issue with Donovan Mitchell and his teams have gone in Cleveland so far is health. So can this team stay healthy? I don't know. Can this team defend on the perimeter? I don't know. Can this team give you a consistent defensive effort to the point that you can be confident in James Harden having those bad nights? I don't know. They're not top 5 in defense. They're not top 5 in offense. And that's sort of my issue with this team. In fact, they are 8th in net rating, so it actually makes a lot of sense. Sorry, they are top 5 in offensive rating. They are number 5. They are number 5 in offensive rating. Defensive rating, they should be much higher, but they're not. They're 12th. So again, the question begs, how much do you genuinely believe in the Cleveland Cavaliers come playoff time? Now, I talked about it last night on my Discord server, and I said a lot of takes. I said a lot of things about the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I think a lot of it was recency bias based off of the performance last night without Donovan Mitchell. And then I just started to reflect, and I just started to think, wow, Cade had his worst game of the season, and we barely lost. Interesting. And of course, they didn't have Donovan Mitchell, so that doesn't help either. So as far as this team goes, I think they can give a couple teams trouble in the playoffs, in particular the Pistons. So it depends how this bracket breaks. Now, luckily for Pistons fans, the Cleveland Cavaliers have the second easiest remaining schedule. Again, I got to repeat myself. Lucky for Pistons fans, the Cleveland Cavaliers have the second easiest remaining schedule. So we could avoid them. They should climb up in the rankings. We'll see. I would like to give special shout outs to my boy Kenny and my boy Kenny resubbing on the Twitch stream. I appreciate it a lot. And Basic Ma gifting a sub. That means the world as well. Shout out to Max for leaving the TikTok stream and coming to the Twitch stream. I appreciate you very, very much. Max, you're a legend. Shout out to you for doing yourself a favor and coming into the Twitch stream. I appreciate it very, very much. Yeah, I'd love to see more of y'all come from the TikTok into the Twitch stream. It's a much better viewing experience over here. That's my honest opinion on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not worried about Mobley come playoff time. I'm not worried about Harden come playoff time. I'm worried about Donovan Mitchell and health around them. So it should be interesting. Now, let us continue. Jaden, thank you for the resub for 2 months on the Twitch stream. I appreciate it a lot. Let's move on to my next team. And that's the Minnesota Timberwolves at number 7. If you would have told me last year that this is where I'd be ranking the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'd believe it. I would believe it. Gobert's 1 year older. Julius Randle's had more time to get overconfident in himself and his abilities. And they still don't have a point guard. The team needs to pass more. Rudy Gobert even came out after last game and said, yeah, we need people to pass. We need people to pass the ball. If your starting center is saying that, and he doesn't even play, he's not even talking about him getting the ball. He's not talking about him getting the ball. Gobert doesn't need the ball. He's talking about everybody else. The ball ends with Anthony Edwards. The ball ends with Julius Randle. Once the ball touches their hands, unless they get doubled, they're not passing the ball. So in order for the Minnesota Timberwolves to reach their 3rd conference finals in a row, you're going to need Dante DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Ayo Dosunmu, Bones Highland. You're going to need production out of them. That's who you're going to need the production from. You're not going to need your production from Anthony Edwards. You're not going to need your production from Julius Randle. They're going to get you what you need. It's the other guys that matter. The Minnesota Timberwolves do not have a good half-court offense at all. But they're good at almost everything else. They're good at fast breaks. They're good at defending because of Rudy Gobert. And I believe their net rating is a top 10. Yeah, they are number 9 in net rating. And defensive rating, they are also ranked top 10. Offensive rating, they are ranked number 9 as well. So like all my rankings sort of make sense in this way. Also, I realize, yeah, they're ranked 9 in every single advanced metric, which is interesting. Now, I do want to repeat myself because I think I forgot to say this. As far as actually, no, I didn't. Do we have the Cleveland Cavaliers last? The Cleveland Cavaliers, I'd say, sorry, I didn't give them their sirens. My apologies, guys. I'd give the Cleveland Cavaliers 2 sirens, and I'd give them, to be honest, I would give them 3 sirens to make it out of the East. Okay? So sorry, I had to go back a second. I would give the Cavs 2 sirens and 3 sirens to make it out of the East. All right? Let's continue with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I genuinely am not confident in their offense. I'm not confident in their half-court offense. I'm not confident that Anthony Edwards is going to be getting you 30 points a night in the playoffs when he's the main focal point of any team's defense. I'm not confident that Julius Randle is going to be giving you what you expect out of him. He's shooting 31% from three this season and only 48% from the field. As a 6'9" guy that weighs 250 pounds, that ain't great. He's basically Zion, except Zion's averaging 20% better from the field goal percentage. And he's not even attempting threes. So again, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves also have two sirens. I'm not that confident in them come playoff time. But again, at this time last year, when I was talking with my friends, I sort of mentioned that the Timberwolves weren't like this. Like they were like this at this point of the season last season too. And then they ended up finishing the regular season 18-2. So I think this stretch for the Timberwolves are so important, y'all. It is so, I hope they're not just waiting for the playoffs to start, because that's what they're sort of looking like last night against the Grizzlies. Last year, they went 18-2 in their last 20 games. They need to lock in right now. They need to get a playoff seed. They need to finish strong, because how you play at the end of the season is how you're going to look into the playoffs. I'd give them two sirens. I would give them two sirens. All right, guys, let's move on to my next team. And remember, TikTok, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. I'm actually going to end the TikTok. So if you want more stream, come to the Twitch. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. The show is still continuing over here. I'm only ending the TikTok right now because I'm trying to reset it. It's unfortunately not in the algorithm, so we will be resetting that here shortly. Let us talk about our next team. All right. Now, I got to be honest with everybody. I don't want anybody getting upset with me. If this is your team, please understand there's no hard feelings. My next team is the Boston Celtics, who are sitting at 41-20 right now. Now, I can explain why the Boston Celtics right now are my sixth team. Now, it's not that crazy to say. That ain't that crazy to say. Now, hear me out. When you look at the Boston Celtics, they do some things great, but they also do things very, very poorly that I don't see working in the playoffs. Now, I know Celtics fans are feeling good because they've beat the Brooklyn Nets, they've beat the Philadelphia 76ers, and they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. I know they're feeling good, and I don't want to be rude to them in any which way. This was a gap year. And you're having a spectacular gap year. I don't want to discredit Celtics. I don't want to discredit their fans. I don't want to discredit any of them whatsoever. Jaylen Brown come playoff time, it worries me. He still can't dribble properly, and he's still the number one option. Peyton Pritchard, we all know, does not perform well against good teams. We all know it. Sam Hauser is one of those guys that can, like, the idea of Sam Hauser sounds good, but come playoff time, do you really trust Sam Hauser to be attempting 15 threes a night? Because I don't. Do you really, genuinely, with your whole heart of hearts, think Derek White has had a good season? Absolutely not. And Derek White is still going to be their number 2 when Jason Tatum comes back. Jason Tatum's going to come back, and he's pretty much going to be their number 3. Derek White has not been good this year. He's been shooting 38% from the field. And a lot of Celtics fans don't want to talk about this, but I've been talking about it all season. 38% from the field and 33% from 3. That is not Derek White. He's a career 44% shooter from the field. So that's a 6% drop. And he's a career 36.5% three-point shooter. That's a 3.5% drop off your top 3 guy. I don't believe Jason Tatum is going to come and ruin team chemistry. He's been on the team for the longest out of anybody on this squad. I don't believe that. I don't like the whole Tatum's going to ruin chemistry. That's not, no, I don't believe that. What I will say is the Boston Celtics have had a cakewalk of a schedule recently. An absolute cakewalk of February. In the month of February, they only played 4 playoff teams. And even further, in January, they only played 4 playoff teams. They have played 7 playoff teams in the last 2 months. I wish I was exaggerating. The Boston Celtics, in their hottest stretch of this season, have played 7 playoff teams. So yes, have the Boston Celtics been hot for the last 2 months? Absolutely. Have they been arguably the best team in 2026? Yeah, absolutely. But they have versed 7 playoff teams in the past 2 months. You're probably wondering, did they beat those playoff teams? Well, let's go through it. They lost against the Denver Nuggets. They lost against the New York Knicks. And then the other playoff team was the Rockets. They beat the Rockets. So shout out to them for beating the Rockets. They smacked them, actually. Let's go further. So right now they've lost 2 out of 3 out of their playoff teams. Next was the Toronto Raptors, and that's why I should really just say 6 playoff teams, because do we really count the Toronto Raptors as far as everybody else? But we'll count them. They beat the Toronto Raptors. They beat the Houston Rockets. They lost to the Detroit Pistons. They beat the Toronto Raptors again. And then they beat the Lakers, which again, sort of just like the Toronto Raptors. I don't really count them as somewhat playoff teams. So yes, they beat the Raptors. They beat the Rockets too in the last 2 months. That was their toughest competition that they beat. So this isn't like a roast session for the Boston Celtics. It's more so like just realize what you've been up against, because I believe their upcoming schedule is not friendly to the Boston Celtics either. So you're truly going to see what this team is made out of here, I believe, in the remaining of this season. They're going to be up against the Hornets tonight, Cavs, Spurs, Thunder. That's a tough stretch. Timberwolves, Thunder, Hornets, Heat, Raptors, Hornets, Knicks, Magic. They have the 6th hardest remaining schedule. So again, do I think the Boston Celtics are a really good team? Absolutely. Do I think they have enough defense to go far? No, I don't. The thing about this team is their offense is fine. Their offense is great, but playoffs is going to be very, very different. This team is number 2 in offensive rating. They are number 2 in net rating. They are number 5 in defensive rating. I believe with Joe Mazzulla being the head coach, they're able to do pretty much anything, right? But when you dig deep a little bit further, they don't pass the ball to their teammates. ISO ball, as we know, does not work in the playoffs. It works to an extent, like in clutch time. That's the only time it really works. So they don't pass the ball. They're the 2nd lowest assisted team in the NBA. They also don't get loose balls or steals. And they also don't get to the free throw line. They're the worst team in the entire NBA at getting to the free throw line. Because why? They jack nothing but threes. So, in my opinion, do I think the Boston Celtics are a contender? Well, let me give you my rankings. I believe the Boston Celtics have 3 sirens. That's the most I've given so far. And I think they have 4 sirens to make it out of the East. Out of 5. I think they have 3 sirens to make it to the finals. Or sorry, 3 sirens in the East, but 4 sirens to make it out of the East, if that makes sense. Because I feel like their biggest competition is just getting through the East. They make it to the finals, anything can happen. So in the Eastern Conference, I'd say they have 4 sirens. And overall, I'd say 3. I think I confused everybody with what I just said. I meant 3 sirens to compete, and then 4 sirens in the East. Because when you look at the East, they are number 2. They've been beating the teams in the East other than the Knicks and the Pistons. So if you can't beat the teams ahead of you, that's fine. Let's just see how far that can take you. So that's my honest opinion on the Boston Celtics. That's why I have them at number 6. I feel like their biggest opponents right now are the Cavs, are the Knicks, and are the Pistons. So I genuinely believe, yeah, I think that's why I have them ranked there. I see Kenny in my Twitch stream asked, what about when Tatum comes back? I believe his playmaking will help this team tremendously. I don't think you're wrong to say that. I don't think Tatum will be enough to make them go from the 2nd worst assisting team in the NBA up to the 2nd best. But I do believe he will be able to swing that ball a little bit more. And, I don't really like talking about what about Tatum because we just don't know. I think he'll come back. I just don't know what he'll look like this year. I don't know what he'll look like this year. I want him to sit out personally. I want him to make sure that he's right before coming back. Let's move on to our next team, ladies and gentlemen. We're entering the top 5 contenders. All right. You guys ready? Here we go. The New York Knicks are my 5th contender. They're 40-22 currently. Now, Knicks fans, please take a deep breath and don't spaz out while I say this. Okay. I don't believe Karl Anthony Towns. I don't believe in him. I don't believe that him having good games against Toronto, Milwaukee, Cleveland in the regular season. I have the New York Knicks. Reiner, please. Sorry, guys. My dog is barking right now. I hope it's not getting picked up. I don't believe in Karl-Anthony Towns come playoff time. I don't see it. Listen, I saw Jalen Brunson last year, and he was limping his way through each round of the playoffs. He was limping his way through each round of the playoffs. And Karl-Anthony Towns has regressed. He has regressed. And anybody telling me I'm wrong, please, I gain nothing from saying this. Please understand, I gain nothing by saying this. I don't have the Knicks any higher than top 5. I don't believe in Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't believe in their defense. Yes, their defense has been good as of late, but again, you do have to look at strength and schedule as well. Throughout the entire season, the New York Knicks have a top 7 defensive rating. They also have a top 3 offensive rating, and then net rating, they are 5th. So in my opinion, I think the New York Knicks are number 5. Brunson is quite literally the best playoff riser that we have in today's NBA right now. I don't think that's really up for debate. Brunson is a whole different animal in the playoffs. But to tell me that Karl-Anthony Towns turns it on in the playoffs, I think that's completely false, because this is not Karl-Anthony Towns. The Karl-Anthony Towns that we're seeing this season is not Karl-Anthony Towns. I don't care about the spurts that you see in these individual games, but this is not Karl-Anthony Towns. Yes, with last year's Karl-Anthony Towns, I absolutely agree with you. I've said it plenty of times. Jalen Brunson was putting he was leading the Knicks through that first round series against the Pistons. But Karl-Anthony Towns was burying the Pistons in 5 out of the 6 games. In each of those 5 of 6 games, other than the Brunson step back 3 on Asar Thompson, Karl-Anthony Towns was hitting fadeaways from 18 feet, step backs from 37 feet, shots that he had no business taking, let alone making. Karl-Anthony Towns buried Detroit last year. I haven't seen that from Karl-Anthony Towns this year. I haven't seen that. I've seen spurts, yes, but you've had 65 games now to show us something. And of those 65 games, can you guys remember the last time Karl-Anthony Towns scored 30 points in a game? I don't remember. Somebody get that stat for me and I'll holler at you. Because that's what Karl-Anthony Towns was doing in those playoffs. He was going unbelievable. And to top it all off, to speak on Karl-Anthony Towns, he's shooting his worst field goal percentage this year. He's shooting his worst 3-point percentage since his rookie season. You can look at box score, you can look at stats, you can look at all of that, because that's what TikTok right now is spamming at me. They're spamming at me stats. He leads in double doubles. That's fine. He can lead you in that. You know what he also leads you in? Allowing buckets in the paint. You know what else he leads you in? Flopping. You know what else he leads you in? Turnovers and offensive fouls. Every negative that Karl-Anthony Towns does impacts this team more than ever. More than ever. I've preached this for a long, long time. Jalen Brunson's your number 1. Karl-Anthony Towns is your number 2. And if Karl-Anthony Towns is not playing at a number 2 caliber player for this team, OG Anunoby's going to do what he can. Mikal Bridges is going to do what he can. But they will go as far as Karl will take them. I'm being told in the TikTok, when the Knicks win a chip this year, just remember me. I hope you guys do. I hope the New York Knicks do, because guess what? You were supposed to make the finals this year. The fact that we're having this conversation is not good. You were supposed to make the finals this year. It should be interesting. Now, this year is also going to tell me a lot. These playoffs are also going to tell me a lot. Jalen Brunson, can you be a number 1 on a championship contending team? Karl-Anthony Towns, can you be a number 2 on a championship caliber team? Those are the questions that you're going to get the answers to in this playoffs. Jalen Brunson, can you be a number 1? Karl-Anthony Towns, can you be a number 2? And you can tell me Jalen Brunson has been a number 1. But this is the best team Jalen Brunson has ever had. The best by far. So it's going to be very interesting to see where we're at come April, come May, come June, if they're there. Again, this is not discrediting the New York Knicks. I think this is I expected to have them higher than this. They were my pick coming out of the East this past summer. They were my pick. I don't think this is my end-all be-all conversation. I personally don't believe that your 2 top players on your team being the worst defenders on your team can lead to a championship. So if you don't buy the whole Karl Anthony Towns will be better. He'll be better in the playoff. The defense won't. The defense won't be better. The defense is where it's at. I see TikTok chat just laughing right now, but I'm being genuinely serious here. With your Jalen Brunson is the worst defender in the NBA. He's the worst defender in the NBA. By every analytical mean, every analytical defensive measure, every metric, every minuscule and advanced metric, Jalen Brunson is the worst defender in the NBA. Karl Anthony Towns, as far as big men goes, he is the third worst with minimum 200 possessions defended. Third. He's the third worst. You know who's above him? Sandro Mamukelishvili and Goga Bitadze, which surprised me because I like Goga. So if you're telling me Sandro Mamukelishvili, who's 6'7", he's a center, he's playing center, and Goga Bitadze are the only two centers that are better defensively than Karl Anthony Towns, that is trouble. That is trouble. Come playoff time, you cannot have your point guard being attacked and attacked and attacked. We saw what happened with Luka. If you continue attacking Jalen Brunson, that's trouble for the Knicks. If you continue attacking Karl Anthony Towns, that's trouble for the Knicks. Now, I've preached this until I've preached this so much, but with Karl Anthony Towns, before I move on and give them my ranking, with Karl Anthony Towns, we all agree. I think we can all agree on something, right? Karl Anthony Towns is better at the 4. Can we all agree? I think we can all agree that Karl Anthony Towns is better at the 4. And that's what they were hoping with Gershon Yabusele. They were hoping that he can play 5 so that Cat can be at the 4. Because in Minnesota, when he was the 4, their defense, it wasn't that flawed because he had Rudy Gobert to help him in the paint. You see the Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns minutes. Unfortunately, Mitch is not conditioned well enough to play that long. Mitch is better in spurts, so they can't really play long together on the court. But in those minutes, Karl Anthony Towns is the best player he ever has been in the Knicks when he plays next to his running mate, Mitchell Robinson. And for the people saying, oh, we'll just play Brunson off ball. That's what the Mavericks were doing. They were playing Luka off ball in the finals in 2024. And the Boston Celtics just kept forcing action into him. They kept getting him in screen action. They kept targeting him. Whoever it was, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, whoever Luka was on, they attacked. And I think every team has done that against the Knicks this year so far with Brunson. The Pistons did it. Shit. K dropped 42. And they barely even got Brunson on him. So, again, if I were to give the New York Knicks my sirens to rank them, I will give them 4 sirens to make it out of the East. I'd give them 4 sirens to make it out of the East. 4. I'd give them 4. 5. They're a 5 siren team in the East. I'll give them a 4. That's the highest ranking I've given so far. I'll give them a 4. They were my favorites to come out of the East at the start of this year. I'm going to give them 4 out of the 5 sirens right now. So out of 5, I'm going to give them 4 sirens. At the start of the season, I would have said 5 sirens. Right now, I'm giving them 4. In case you guys don't understand these rankings with the sirens, I'm giving them sirens. This is actually Zach Harper. He's a really good blogger for the Bounce, and he ranks teams with sirens, and that's like sort of in a scale called DDT. Don't doubt them. So that's my level of like urgency that I believe that they're going to make it. So, for example, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Toronto Raptors, they were all 1 siren. The New York Knicks are 4. Let's continue, guys. We are entering our top 3. Now, before anybody freaks out or gets upset, I have a very keen reason as to why I picked the San Antonio Spurs for being my number 4 team. My number 4 team. My apologies. My 4 team. The San Antonio Spurs are my number 4. They are 44-17. The San Antonio Spurs have looked excellent all year long. Their worst rankings are they're 22nd in steals because they'd rather get blocks, and they are 20th in 3-point percentage. Now, the San Antonio Spurs have given a lot of teams headaches this year. And I'm sure Spurs fans right now are like sort of surprised by this ranking that I have them at. The San Antonio Spurs are 4th in net rating. They are 3rd in defensive rating, of course. And offensive rating, they are 8th. That's their trouble. Now, something that I'll give the Spurs credit for is their offense as of late has looked unbelievable. And I hate to downplay it as far as like their opponents go, but if you look back in the last month, they have versed 3 playoff teams: the Knicks, the Pistons, and the Lakers. As far as everybody else, has been Dallas twice, Golden State without Curry, Phoenix without anybody, Sacramento, the Nets, and the 76ers. Sorry, 4 teams. They versed the Toronto Raptors. One thing that has been really, really good as of late for the San Antonio Spurs is the production from Devin Vassell and Julian Champagnie. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's been a sight to see. I've been watching so many Spurs games, and honestly, I don't think Spurs fans should get upset with me. I think this is accurate because with the Spurs, you have, well, can we just be honest with ourselves? I think everybody can tell who my next team is, who cracks the top 3. The main reason I have the Spurs is because they haven't been there. They haven't been there yet. We're relying on Harrison Barnes, his playoff experience from 11 years ago. We're waiting for Luke Cornett, who had 2 years of playoff experience being a backup, sometimes backup to the backup center. De'Aaron Fox has been good in spurts, but I don't think he's a playoff riser. He had 1 playoff series, and that was 5 years ago. And then on top of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, there's a term I like using when I talk about NBA teams like this, and it's called resilience. Okay. When Devin Vassell heats up, oh boy, just hang it up. Hang it up. When Julian Champagnie heats up, hang it up. It's over. The issue with this team is they are reliant on microwaves. Devin Vassell, when he catches fire, Julian Champagnie, when he catches fire, it's very hard to stop this team because now you have to help less on Wemby in the paint and then start focusing on the corner, on the wing, on top of the key to guard these 3-point shooters. Now, if Devin Vassell and Julian Champagnie are not hitting threes, this team is one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the NBA. And that's not crazy to say either. They are 20th in 3-point percentage. In fact, before the All-Star break, they were the 25th at shooting threes. But because Devin Vassell and Julian Champagnie have been lights out since the All-Star break, for the most part, other than the Knicks, that percentage has rose. Now, my biggest complaint about the San Antonio Spurs is that they just don't have the experience. Ladies and gentlemen, there has never been a team to go from the lottery to the finals ever in NBA history without adding a superstar. Did they add a superstar this summer? No. They added De'Aaron Fox at the trade deadline last year. So, yes, they have Wembanyama. Yes, they have all of this. My biggest issue is just experience. And they'll learn that. They will learn that. And honestly, this team has looked experienced. This team has looked experienced through the regular season. But come playoff time, are we going to see Wemby rise? Because in all due respect, Wemby has not been great as far as offensively starting after All-Star break. He's not been that great. I feel like, am I crazy for saying it looks like Wemby is tired? Spurs fans, you guys can tell me. You Spurs fans are the only fans that have watched the Spurs more than I have. Wemby looks tired. Wemby looks tired. And that might be just my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that. But this is the most Wemby has ever really played in the NBA. And he's getting faced with a lot of physical play from a lot of other players on opposing teams. You can't rely on Devin Vassell in the playoffs. You can't rely on Julian Champagnie in the playoffs. You can't rely on that. Can you rely on De'Aaron Fox? I don't know. Can you rely on Victor Wembanyama? I don't know. And for the people saying you can rely on De'Aaron Fox because he's a clutch player, Stop listening to them damn national TV commentators, bro. He won Clutch Player of the Year 6 years ago. So again, I am going to repeat myself one more time. Wemby's not going to be getting those foul calls in the playoffs. He's not going to be getting double-digit free throws every single night. He's not going to. Wemby is also not going to be going at people the way he does. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think the Spurs, I think their floor is obviously the first round. I think their floor is the second round, to be honest. Because right now they would verse the Phoenix Suns. That's honestly a sweep. That's a sweep. Arguably a sweep. Could be a 5-game sweep. My biggest issue is like what they do against the Timberwolves, what they do against the Nuggets. You know, I feel like that's going to be very, very, that's going to be the deterring factor. Now, since the San Antonio Spurs don't have any experience, I'm going to give the Spurs a 4. So same level as the Knicks. I'm going to give them a 4. You know what? No. I'm going to give them a 3.5. The Knicks have an easier path than the Spurs do. I'm going to give, so yes, while I have the Spurs ranked higher than the Knicks, as far as urgency on whether or not they're going all the way this year, I'm going to give them a 3.5. Because this is the thing. We could watch something for the very first time ever where we can watch a star transcend in his very first playoff. We could watch Wemby look undeniably inevitable. We could see that. Will we? I don't know. Time will tell, man. This is all speculation. Okay, so you can take with what I say with a grain of salt as somebody who watches the NBA every night, who watches every single game from the previous nights. The Spurs are a really good team, man. But as we all know, role players play worse on the road. And come playoff time, those lights are bright. Those lights are bright. I don't think you can rely on Devin Vassell for hitting 7 threes. I don't think you can rely on Julian Champagny hitting 6 threes. That's just me. Y'all can let me know what you guys think. And now we're entering the top 3. Now, top 3 are the teams that I believe I am most confident in for at least reaching the conference finals or finals. This is where you're really talking about the big boys. At number 3, we have the Detroit Pistons. Now, I know everyone's probably throwing up and vomiting in their mouths. Just forget last night, okay? Forget last night. The Detroit Pistons are my 3rd team at making the finals. Or, sorry, being contenders. Now, I know a lot of people are upset by this. I know Spurs fans are saying, oh, we crushed them. Oh, I know Cavs fans are saying, yeah, we crushed them. I have to be honest with everybody. The only reason I have the Detroit Pistons higher than the San Antonio Spurs is because they got their experience last year. Now, I need everybody to understand something before I continue. So please, TikTok, I see you guys spamming and I'm not reading any of your guys' messages. You guys need to hear what I'm about to say, okay? Teams level up, okay? The Thunder had to lose a couple times to get to the finals. The Pacers had to lose a couple times to get to the finals. LeBron had to lose for 9 years before making it and winning it all. Michael Jordan had to lose 7 years, 8 years to make it to the finals. I wish the Pistons were not the first seed in the East, because then we could all have rational conversations about this team. Instead, everybody wants to freak out and place this expectation on the Detroit Pistons for being better than they are. The GM of the Pistons has come out and said that we are not focused on a championship. He came out and said this 2 weeks ago. We're not focused on a championship. We got to win a home playoff game. We got to win a playoff series. There's steps to this. So if our GM is telling you that we're not going to win it all this year, that's not the goal, then please stop placing this goal on my Pistons. And it sucks because they're the first seed. So now, since you're the first seed, you can't make these excuses. So the GM came out and said, we're not going for the champ. We're trying to win a playoff game. We're trying to win a playoff series. We're trying to win for the first time in 18 years. By you getting the first seed in the East, you have unintentionally placed yourselves in the conversation of contenders. So now I have to talk about this team as being contenders. Let's look at the repertoire and arsenal of this team. They have a superstar in Cade Cunningham. They have an all-star in Jalen Duren. That's it. So when you look at this team, they don't have shooting. They don't have a second shot creator. They don't have a competent 9 guys. But what the Pistons do have is they have a superstar that is willing to make this team great. I want to talk about the advanced stats. The Detroit Pistons are number 3 in net rating. The Detroit Pistons are number 11 in offensive rating. The Detroit Pistons are number 2 in defensive rating behind just the Thunder. In fact, since December 20th, the Detroit Pistons have the number 1 defense in the NBA. So I'm going to continue talking about this team. And mind you guys, I am a Pistons fan. And as a Pistons fan, I am completely objective to this team. I don't share any of my biased takes because my biased takes are my honest takes. I watched this team for my entire life, and I can tell you straight up, I'm not confident in this team going to the finals. I'm not. They're 9th in points scored per game. They're 5th in rebounds. They're 12th in assists. But here's where you have to take the Pistons serious, okay? They're number 1 in steals. They're number 1 in loose balls retrieved. They're number 1 in shots blocked. They have the number 1 paint protector in the NBA. Yes, they don't have Wemby. They have Isaiah Stewart. He leads the NBA in lowest field goal percentage around the rim. They're 13th in field goals attempted. They're 6th in field goal percentage. They're 3rd in getting to the free throw line. That's great for the playoffs. That's great for the playoffs. They're 25th in three-point percentage. They're 27th in three-pointers attempt, and they're 28th in three-pointers made. And that is the biggest issue for the Detroit Pistons. I don't need people telling me who the Pistons are up against. I don't need people telling me that the Pistons are fake. I don't need that. I understand my team more than any of you guys do. More than anybody watching this stream, watching this podcast, listening to this podcast, you can't tell me something about my Pistons that I don't already know. I know everything about this team. And what I'm telling you with this team is it's scary because I didn't want these expectations placed on the head of my basketball team. The reason why I have this team ahead of the San Antonio Spurs is because they got their experience. They got their experience last year in a close series against the New York Knicks. Okay? They got there. And when you have a superstar in Cade Cunningham, you have to beg the question, who steps up when Cade inevitably goes 4 for 20 in a playoff game? Who do you go to? And for my Pistons fans that are so upbeat and so positive and living in dream world, who do you go to if Cade is inevitably going to have a game where he shoots 4 for 20? He's going to. Now, you could argue, Jay-Z, Cade isn't going to have 4 games going 4 for 20. And you're right. But when your second offensive shot creator is Tobias Harris, do I need to say more? Shout out to Tobias. Great vet. Such a nice guy. I've met him countless of times. Super, super, super great guy. I love him. But if that's who you're telling me is your second option at creating shots, what more do I need to say? Tobias Harris scored 17 points in the third quarter last night for the Pistons against the Cavaliers. I got to repeat myself. Tobias Harris scored 17 points last night in the third quarter alone. But he had 0 in the first half. And I don't believe he scored again for the rest of the game. Something that I will say about the Detroit Pistons is Asar Thompson is their second best player. I know everybody says Jalen Duren. Maybe not second best player, but Asar Thompson is the second most important player to this team because even last night, if you don't want to throw away last night, the only reason the Pistons were in that game is because of one man, and his name is Asar Thompson. And until JB Bickerstaff realizes that Karis LeVert is a cancer to this team, I don't know what JB Bickerstaff is going to do. But Cade Cunningham, his last bucket he made last night was with 9.5 minutes left. Not in the fourth quarter. Not in the third quarter. In the second quarter. Cade Cunningham didn't score another bucket since the 9.5 minute mark in the second quarter. Now, there's one tweet that I saved for today. 2 tweets, actually. Karis LeVert, when he's on the court, the Pistons are winning by 3. Karis LeVert, when he's off the court, the Pistons are winning by 11. This is the most crucial thing that I need to show everybody. Pistons sub out Asar. This is every single night, by the way. This is every single night. Pistons sub out Asar. Opponent goes on run. Pistons sub in Asar. Opponent struggles to score. Pistons sub out Asar. Opponent goes on a run. Pistons sub in Asar. Opponent struggles to score. Pistons sub out Asar. Opponent goes on a run. Pistons sub in Asar, and so on and so forth. Asar's the only reason they're in most of these games. Asar's the only reason they almost won last game. And now I'd love to, I know Asar can't play 48 minutes, but something that's extremely worrisome for the Detroit Pistons is that they don't play their top 2 guys in Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson 30 plus minutes in a game. So you're telling me in the playoffs, we're still only going to play Asar Thompson for 28 minutes a game? We're only going to play Jalen Duren, our second All-Star, 28 minutes in a game? You need to ramp these guys up leading into the playoffs. You can't just suddenly start playing them 40 minutes a night in the playoffs. They asked JB Bickerstaff something extremely important. What do you plan on doing for the rest of the season and going into the playoffs? Are you going to lower your rotation to 9 or maybe 8 guys? And he said, I struggle to get it under 12. 12. You are going to play 12 players in the playoffs, meaning you are going to be playing Karis LeVert for 20 plus minutes in the playoffs. Hang it up. This team's a first round fucking exit if that's the case. Excuse my French. If you are playing Karis LeVert for more than 1 second in a playoff game, consider that series lost, because the moment he comes in, team loses. The moment he comes in every single night. Now, this team is only going to go as far as Cade Cunningham will take them. So if you're asking me to rank this team, I would give them a 4 Sirens to come out of the East. The same as the Knicks. The same as the Knicks. Same as the Knicks. I have them at 4 Sirens because my most important point is that I think this team matches up beautifully against the New York Knicks. I think this team matches up beautifully against the Raptors, the Hornets, the Magic, the 76ers. The 2 teams that fear me are the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Boston Celtics shoot too many threes. Can't compete. The Cleveland Cavaliers have size and threes. It's very hard to compete. So with the Cleveland Cavaliers having the second easiest schedule for the remaining of the season, that bodes well for the Pistons because you need the Cavaliers to win to rise up in the standings. My final point about the Detroit Pistons is that when Cade has that night where he goes 4 for 20, who's going to be your next scorer? Who's going to be the guy? It's not Karis LeVert. It's not Dennis Jenkins. It's not Tobias Harris. It's not Duncan Robinson. It should have been Jaden Ivey. But Cole Anthony unfortunately ruined that. So that's why I have the Pistons at number 3. I have them number 3. Now, I think you guys can already tell my final 2. So we're going to move with some pace. At number 2, we have the Denver Nuggets. Because this episode's already been really long. The Denver Nuggets. Now, I know they've been disappointing. I know they've been bad. But they have Nikola Jokic. They have Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench that is just scorching all season long. Don't know why he didn't do that with Detroit. He's scorching. It's just Tim Hardaway Jr., man. He's torching. He's shooting unbelievable percentages. He's shooting an unbelievable amount of threes. And Jamal Murray in the playoffs. Do I need to say anything more? Do I need to say anything more about Jamal Murray in the playoffs? Arguably the best playoff riser in the entire NBA, aside from Jalen Brunson, aside from peak Jimmy Butler. Yeah, I mean, they have Nikola Jokic now. I know a lot of people don't like Jokic, but you got to respect game, and he's got game, man. He's got game. Now, when I say about teams that have a secondary, the reason why I say I don't believe in my Pistons is because they don't have that second option. Look at all of these other teams that are on this list. Every single team we've spoke about today has a second option. Let's start from the top. The Lakers, whether it's LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, they got plenty of options, but no defense, so they suck. The Raptors have Ingram, Scotty Barnes. The 76ers, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, VJ Edgecombe. The Rockets, Kevin Durant, Alperen Sengun. The Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, Evan Mobley. Minnesota Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, Julius Randle. Jaden McDaniels. The Boston Celtics, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. Fuck it. Hugo Gonzalez, Nemish Queta, Baylor Shireman, Sam Hauser. Hell, give me Xavier Tillman. I think they traded him, actually. The New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. They can get you buckets. Even off the bench, you got Jose Alvarado and Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet is better than anybody else in the Pistons starting lineup at scoring the ball, other than Cade. The San Antonio Spurs, Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, they're a young team. Stephon Castle, Devin Vassell, Julian Champagnie. The Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham. And the rest of them. The Denver Nuggets, Jamal Murray, Jokic. Every single one of these teams have minimum 2 shot creators. They can create their own shot. Yeah, the Denver Nuggets are incredible. They're incredible. We all know. Now, what I will say about the Denver Nuggets that isn't getting talked about enough, and there's a reason why I wanted to put the Denver Nuggets actually behind the Spurs and the Pistons. Now, please, guys, relax. Don't freak out. The Denver Nuggets right now in net rating are number 7. That's the worst we've covered in the top 5 so far. The offensive rating, they're number 1. In fact, they're tied for number 1 with who? The Boston Celtics. But this is the issue here. If I want to show you guys the defensive rating of the Denver Nuggets, for podcast listeners, I'm scrolling down a page. What's this? The Denver Nuggets are 21st in defense. Why is this not getting talked about? 21st? You know who's 22? The Lakers. Hold on now. I thought the Lakers aren't contenders because their defense is horrendous. But what's this? They have the 21st worst defense in the entire NBA. And that's why they've been underperforming. That's why they have the record that they have. People only just don't count them out because, we don't have Aaron Gordon. We don't have Christian Brown. We don't have Cam Johnson. We don't have Bruce Brown. We don't have Nikola Jokic. Now, that's okay. That's okay. But it's something to talk about, y'all. It's something to talk about. Their defense is not good. Their defense is not good. Can their offense genuinely win them playoff series? Maybe. Will their defense improve when Aaron Gordon comes back? Yeah, probably. So it's something to think about, man. It's something to think about. And they do everything else great on the offensive end. It's literally rebounding and defense this team's, that's their worst weakness. They get the second most free throws in the NBA. They're 9th in assists. They're number 1 in points scored. But the unfortunate thing is they're 20th in rebounding, 30th in steals, 28th in blocks, and 26th in field goals attempted. So, yeah. Do I have the Denver Nuggets at number 2? Yeah, I do. Because I think with Aaron Gordon, P. Watt, their defense will improve a lot, astronomically. And I think that's going to bode very, 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 very well in the playoffs. P. Watt hasn't played well when he played with Jokic, but I think playoffs is when he's truly going to rise. This next month is going to be extremely, extremely, extremely important. And I would like to point out for everybody else who still has their doubts about what I said about the Detroit Pistons, okay? Nikola Jokic, he can score at any point in the game. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Do you guys know why? That's because Nikola Jokic plays from the perimeter. When Jokic has the ball, when he orchestrates the offense, he's standing at the three-point line and orchestrates the half-court offense, right? The reason why you cannot convince me that Jalen Duren is a second option is because his offense starts in the post. Do you guys know how you get the ball in the post? Does anybody know? Do we have any Albert Einsteins here? Hey, guys, how does the ball enter the post? Does anybody know? I'm going to give you guys like 3 more seconds to tell me. How does a basketball enter the paint? How does that happen? You pass it precisely. Thank you, Twitch chat. You pass it. It's an entry pass. Do you know what pass? Because they track every single analytic nowadays. Do you guys know what pass is the least executed pass in the fourth quarter? I think you already know where I'm getting at. The entry pass. The entry pass is the least executed pass in the NBA in the fourth quarter. You cannot rely on a paint scorer in the fourth quarter. You cannot rely on a big man that gets what he needs done in the paint in the fourth quarter. Jalen Duren can do what he wants in the 3 quarters. Can Cade Cunningham lead you in the fourth? Can he lead you throughout that game? That's why I don't That's why I really don't consider him as being a true second option for the Pistons. And the Nuggets have nothing to worry about in that sense. They have Jamal Murray. They have Rudy Gobert. I see people getting upset with the spam in the TikTok chat. Guys, Madman, Steven, Hunt, guys, stop getting upset in the TikTok chat. Just come to the Twitch stream. Get away from idiots like that guy. Get away from him. I see you guys getting very upset with him. Come to the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut. The link is in my bio. It's the same name as my TikTok name. Come through. It's a much better viewing experience over here. My chat over here, very civil, very intellectual, very ball-knowing, and very friendly. So TikTok chat, do yourself a favor. Do me a favor. Come to the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. Okay? Guys, it's time to get to our number one team. It is the New Orleans. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the worst teams in the NBA. My bad. The Oklahoma City Thunder. They're the number one team. Do I need to say anything? I don't think I need to say anything, right, guys? Number one defensive rating. Number one net rating. Number 4 offensive rating. I don't think this needs any clarification. When healthy, with J-Dub, that's the issue here. Can J-Dub look like J-Dub of last year? Because, guys, I hate to tell y'all, if J-Dub looks like he does this year in the playoffs, this team ain't winning shit. I'm sorry. Yeah, their defense is still good. Yes, their defense is still good. But without J-Dub, I don't know, guys. This team needs J-Dub. He's extremely important to this team. And if he shoots these averages in the playoffs, it's not going to happen. It's not going to. He was shooting 47% from the field and 31% from 3. 31% from 3? What are you, a Piston? You're not supposed to shoot 31% from 3. Those are Piston numbers. So they'll go as far as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will take them. It's just who's the other guy. I think we all agree it's not Chet. Not yet, at least. It's J-Dub. And if J-Dub doesn't look like J-Dub of last year, then it's not going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And again, Jared McCain's been exquisite for them. Shout out the Philadelphia 76ers for handing them that. AJ Mitchell's been exquisite. Kenrich Williams, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins. Man, this team is deep as hell. Deep as hell. So I think they still should be the favorite. I think they're still number one. I forgot to say, by the way, Denver Nuggets, I believe I'm going to give 5 sirens. 4.5 sirens, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are the only team on this entire list that I am giving 5 sirens. So do with that what you will. Ladies and gentlemen, this podcast has been going for over an hour and 17 minutes. We're not talking about games from last night, obviously, because this podcast ran way too long. But we are going to talk about our stud of the night. Ladies and gentlemen, there are a lot of options to choose from. I could have picked, let's see. I could have picked Bam Adebayo. I could have picked Anthony Edwards. I could have picked Tobias Harris. Yeah, right. But last night's stud of the night, for the first time so far this season, is Paolo Banchero. Now, Paolo last night in 32 minutes against the Washington Wizards. 37 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists. He was a plus 26 in the court. Only 2 turnovers. And this is why I picked him over Anthony Edwards. He shot 15 for 21 from the field. 1 for 2 from 3. That's an incredible game. I don't care who he played. He played again. All right, let's see who was guarding him. Will Riley was guarding Paolo Banchero. Any Will Riley fans in the crowd? So yeah, Paolo Banchero, my stud of the night. I thought he had a great game. I watched the highlights this morning. If Paolo plays like that, man, if he just plays the Wizards every night, Paolo Banchero is the MVP of this league. Is that a hot take? If he just plays against the Washington Wizards every single night, Paolo Banchero is the MVP. But he's averaging 37 points against the Washington Wizards. Again, I don't mean to discredit Paolo Banchero. That was a great game last night. He looked good, and he attacked. He attacked the rim. He attacked the paint, and that's when Paolo Banchero was at his best. He only attempted 2 threes last night, man. If you can do that every night, Paulo, until that shot comes comfortable, keep attacking that paint. You're bigger than everybody else. You got to lose a little bit of weight. I hate that we're telling you that, but you do. And yeah, just keep taking smart shots. It's just 1, 2, 3 dribbles, bro. 1, 2, 3 dribbles. Paulo dribbles too much. That's his biggest issue. He waits for the defender to get close. He dribbles way too much. 3 dribbles, man. 3 dribbles. Paulo, you looked great last night, man. I saw a bunch of possessions where you only dribbled 3 times. Good job. Stud of the night. Stud of the night. Guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. TikTok, YouTube, if you guys want more stream, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. We are still live on Twitch. Again, that's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch, the purple app, YouTube, TikTok. Come through, guys. We're live on Twitch, Jay-Z Uncut. The link is in my bio. Podcast listeners, yes, I'm talking to you guys listening on Apple and Spotify. Be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. Twitch chat, don't go anywhere. All right? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern for our live show. But I would like to give y'all a heads up. There's no show on Friday. No show. There's no show on Friday. Okay? Just so we're all clear. I'm driving up to Detroit this Friday to visit my family for my fiance's spring break. So there will be no show on Friday. Now, originally I told you guys that there will be no show on Monday. That's still TBD. But all I'm telling you is right now, there's guaranteed no show on Friday because I am going to be driving. And I don't think you guys want me to get hurt, right? I don't think you guys want me to crash my car and die and fall off the hills of West Virginia, right? You guys want me to be healthy and happy and, right? You guys don't want me to crash off the side of the mountain and die, right? Okay. That's going to do it for today's show. YouTube, TikTok, swing on into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. The link is in my bio and description. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching / listening. I'll catch y'all tomorrow for the last episode of the week at 9 a.m. Eastern.